Monocolor in Commander is probably one of the coolest things that I've really been stumbling across lately. Imagine having the capability of doing more to your Commander deck and choosing, nah, I don't think I'm going to. It's essentially like just fully embracing your weaknesses as a person. And I truly think that it breeds a lot of creativity into the game of Magic the Gathering, especially within the deck building process. When you're playing blue, you don't have a lot of answers to these creatures besides just hopefully delaying the inevitable. You have to be smart. You have to make really tough decisions throughout every single game in a mono blue deck, and you have a very difficult time of winning the game if it's not through some sort of combo. In mono white, you are pretty much strapped for any sort of card draw, despite the fact that it's gotten way better in the past couple years. Because of this, you have to speed up to either an incredibly fast pace, trying to win as early as possible, or you have to find a way to slow down the entire game for your opponents so that they stoop down to your level. In red, that explosiveness needs to be embraced as best as possible. As soon as a red player plays their first land, they are a threat. The explosiveness of red needs not be understated. Then, when it's in black, finding ways to delay your opponents as well as use your life total as effectively as possible in order to get as much advantage over them as you can. Sacrificing the creatures you don't need, sacrificing the enchantments and artifacts you don't need, making sure the entire table has no board state whatsoever thanks to all the incredible creature destruction you have at your disposal. And I don't want to talk about mono green. Cast ramp, cast big creature, cast a Rishkar's expertise. It's green. What do you expect? Monocolor is one of the craziest things and coolest things that I think is present in Commander. And I'll tell you finally why I think this. And it is simply because of the limitations. Like I said earlier in the video, you are essentially embracing the entire identity of that color and what that color wants to do within the game of Commander. This is where we get the concept of staples. Staples, although they might be generic, are there for a reason because they are almost always exactly what that color wants to do as generically as possible. The reason Counterspell and Brainstorm are in so many decks is because blue wants to counter things and blue wants that card advantage and card selection. Because of this, you shouldn't be surprised to see so many blue staples that want to do those things. Anointed Procession is another one of these staples, and wouldn't you know it, white loves going as wide as possible, making a ton of tokens. A lot of these staples, like I said, are staples for a reason because they embody exactly what that color wants, or they do the exact opposite of what that color is good at, which is why they are used so frequently in a format like Commander where there is no rotation. Feed the Swarm is used and Withering Torment is used in mono black because otherwise you have no way of dealing with enchantments. Now, is there any artifact removal in black? Let's just say you'd be hard to find any. Chaos Warp is used so frequently in red because how else is red going to deal with pretty much any permanent type besides artifacts and direct damage? Which, if you're using direct damage on creatures, unless it's a Blasphemous Act or Chain Reaction, what are you doing? That should be going straight to the dome and nowhere else. Unless it's as efficient as a shock or lightning bolt, it should be hit in the face. The limitations of each color are drastically apparent as soon as you play a monocolor deck, which is why it is so great. Like any artist knows, limitation breeds creativity. When I go to make a deck, I truly do think of it as painting on a canvas. I'm trying to make something unique. I'm trying to make something that has never been seen before, as generic as that may sound, and as generic as the deck might end up looking. Imagine you were supposed to paint something with only black ink. In most cases, because of that, you're going to have some sort of outline. It's usually going to be some sort of pen or pencil outline sketch. The same is within the deck building process. If I am only allowed to play black, the only true way that I'm going to get as efficient as possible with that is by embracing exactly what the commander itself wants and embracing exactly what the color black wants. I know I'm going to run into a lot of artifacts that I can't deal with in mono black. But my solutions to that are either going to be to stall out any sort of board state that gets assembled with that artifact player, or to outrace that artifact player and ensuring that they aren't able to actually reach that win condition that otherwise I wouldn't be able to stop. In blue, I know that I'm going to have a hard time protecting myself with the amount of creatures that are just not as efficient in my colors. Because of this, I'm going to use my most efficient as possible card advantage, as well as using my voice and intellect, which there isn't a lot of, in order to make sure that these creatures are not coming at me. And if they are, I have an Aetherize ready for them. Another way that we can set limitations for ourselves in the deck building process is not only what colors we choose, especially in a monocolor setting, it's also the budget that we use. A $1,000 to $2,000 Soul Tie list or 4-color Thrasios Tymna list is most likely going to be a lot more efficient and better at doing its job than a $60 mono blue deck. But this is where our creative juices go towards. These are the limitations that we like to set on ourselves. How much limitations can we put on our budget and our colors available to us and still make a deck that can compete at a high level? For this, I want to kind of showcase and talk about a friend of mine's deck, which is a Wilson Raised by Giants list. This was from a $60 mono green deck building challenge. And might I just say, this is probably one of the most terrifying Voltron decks I think I've ever seen. Turns out giving a 2-mana creature a ton of good keywords and, of course, making it 2 mana in the color that is able to ramp as fast as physically possible is incredibly powerful and very consistent when you have its best supporting card also in the command zone with Raised by Giants. The amount of ways that you're able to buff and draw from high power in a color like green is incredible. And even with this deck being only $60, I think it actually might be a little less than $60, it is still a formidable foe in any commander game. I played against this deck with my roughly $400 to $500 Rocco list, and let me just say, the $500 does not mean the deck was better. And this is where we actually get to some of the benefits of using less colors. And that is more focus is available to you. Sometimes people hear this word limitations and they're like, oh, I'm boxing myself in. But what they don't realize is that no, you have a small box that is really easy to fill. I think the peak of my monocolor list is my mono black devotion list. That is now incredibly powerful. And after a couple of years since I first posted that mono black devotion list, I've grown quite a bit as a deck builder, and I know which cards are a little bit better to be using in those contexts. I've made it so that this deck is incredibly consistent and is able to win on turn 6, 7, or 8 pretty much every single game. And the only reason you'd be winning on turn 8 is if you get severely delayed by a board wipe or you start missing land drops, in which case you probably kept a bad hand. The greatest thing about monocolor is the limitations breed a lot of creativity. Sometimes the budget can too, but the best thing is that you are now very clearly focused on whatever you are trying to do. With this list, it's extremely simple. Put black pips on the battlefield, use the incredible assortment of black tutors, find your Gray Merchant of Asphodel, and play the Gray Merchant. From there, you can sack the Gray Merchant, reanimate it with the incredible assortment of reanimation spells in black, a lot of the not dead after all effects in black, and because of all the drain that you're doing, the amount of black pips that you have, it is incredibly easy to get to the point where you are winning the game turn 6 or turn 7. We run a bit of removal just in case, but for the most part, it is extremely focused on I want to accomplish this goal, and I don't have any other colors here distracting me. I don't have any other ways of playing the game here that can distract me from my overall goal. The same can be said with mono blue. If my only goal in mono blue is to be as tricky as possible, be as selfish with my interaction as possible, and have way more advantage than all of my opponents, I don't have to worry about Azorius and adding white to this, and like, oh, maybe I could get tokens in this as well, or adding black, and oh, maybe instead of the blue advantage, I use the tutors, and then I use some of the good card draw and tricky counter spells with blue, and I just control the game. No, I'm just going to draw way more cards than you sitting across the table from me, because I'm in a mono blue list and I have way more card selection and advantage than you do. Limitations, yes, do put you in a box. But if you can fill that box 100% because of how much smaller it is than other decks, you are embracing that creativity. With that being said, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this video. But if you've gotten this far, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, as well as tell me what your favorite cereal is in the comments below. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time.